As alleged, Williams Jr. produced an AK-style pistol and forced one of the victims to sign a release from the recording contract at gunpoint.
Yo Gotti just made a move that told you everything you need to know about where he stands on this Pooh Shiesty and Gucci Mane situation. While the entire rap game is going back and forth pointing fingers, choosing sides, and throwing around the word snitch like confetti, Gotti moves in silence and sent his personal lawyer, his own legal team, to represent Big 30 in federal court. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Yo Gotti, the man who allegedly offered Pooh Shiesty a deal with CMG right before this whole robbery went down, is now bankrolling legal defense for one of the co-defendants. That ain't a coincidence, gang. That's a statement. That's a reaction louder than any Instagram post, any interview, any diss track. Gotti didn't need to say a word. He let his actions do all the talking, and the streets heard it loud and clear. But here's the thing to really understand why this is so crazy, why this one move from Gotti is sending shockwaves through the entire culture. You need to understand the full picture, because this ain't just about Pooh Shiesty catching a federal case. This ain't just about Gucci Mane getting robbed at gunpoint in his own studio. Nah, this is about decades of beef, label politics, loyalty, betrayal, and a chess game that's been playing out between Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane for years. And Pooh Shiesty, he might have just been the pawn that blew the whole board up. That's just the beginning though. What happened in that Dallas studio on January 10th, 2026, and everything that's come out since is one of the wildest stories hip-hop has ever seen. And I'm about to break the whole thing down for y'all. Every detail, every connection, every move that led to this moment. Let's get into it. To understand how we got here, we need to go back, way back, because the tension between Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane didn't start in 2026. This beef has roots that go deep. We're talking over a decade of bad blood, subliminal shots, and territorial disputes between two of the South's biggest figures. Gotti, out of Memphis, and Gucci, out of Atlanta. Both of them carved out empires in the trap music world. Both of them built labels. Gotti's CMG, Collective Music Group, became a powerhouse. Moneybagg Yo, Glorilla, ESTG, all signed under Gotti's umbrella. And then you got Gucci's 1017 Records. At one point, 1017 was the label for discovering raw Southern talent. We're talking about the label that gave us Waka Flocka, Young Thug early on, and eventually Pooh Shiesty himself. But here's the thing about Gotti and Gucci. They never really got along. There was always tension, always subliminals. The streets always knew these two didn't rock with each other. Rick Ross even confirmed this recently when he said he once got both of them on a phone call together trying to broker some type of peace. Ross said there was no disrespect on the call, no raised voices, but he wanted to plant a seed, hoping one day maybe they could move forward and even do a CMG and 1017 tour together. That seed never grew, fam, and what happened in January might have killed it for good. Now let's talk about Pooh Shiesty. Born Lontrell Donnell Williams Jr. out of Memphis, Tennessee. This kid was a problem from the jump. He came onto the scene around 2019 with his debut single and immediately started making noise in the South. By 2020, Gucci Mane had signed him to 1017 Records through Atlantic. They even dropped a collab together called Still Together, where Shiesty was shouting out the relationship, talking about Gucci coming to get him, comparing them to Shaq and Kareem. At that point, everything was love. 1017 put out a compilation album, So Icy Summer, with another Gucci and Shiesty collab on there. The label boss and his star artist, looking like the future of trap music. But here's where things started to crack. Shiesty's debut mixtape dropped and it was a monster. This wasn't just a good project. This was the kind of tape that makes labels nervous because they realize their artist might be bigger than the deal they signed him to. And that's the story that keeps repeating in hip-hop, right? Artist signs a deal when they're hungry, blows up way bigger than anyone expected, and now that original contract feels like a cage. Then Shiesty caught that case in Florida, connected to a shooting in Bay Harbor Islands. Armed robbery, aggravated assault, battery, serious charges. Then another arrest tied to a strip club shooting in Miami. He was held without bond. The legal troubles kept stacking up and Shiesty ended up behind bars for a significant stretch. October 2025, Pooh Shiesty walks free. He's out. And almost immediately the energy shifts. He drops a single called FDO in December. The streets go crazy, and behind the scenes, that's when Yo Gotti enters the picture. Now this is where it gets real, so pay attention. Word on the street, and this has been confirmed by multiple sources and reporting, is that in the early days of 2026, Yo Gotti offered Pooh Shiesty a deal with CMG Records. Think about what that means for a second. Gotti is reaching out to Gucci Mane's artist. Not just any artist, his biggest artist, the one who put 1017 back on the map, and he's offering him a new home. Now, in the music industry, this kind of thing happens. Artists get poached by other labels, people negotiate buyouts, contracts expire, but this ain't just any two labels, fam. This is CMG and 1017. This is Yo Gotti and Gucci Mane, two people with years of beef. So when Gotti extends that offer to Shiesty, whether he intended it or not, it's a chess move. It's aggressive, and it puts Pooh Shiesty in the middle of something way bigger than just a record deal. Here's the problem though. Shiesty was still under contract with 1017, and from what multiple reports are saying, Gucci was not willing to just let his star artist walk. Why would he? Shiesty is arguably the most commercially viable name on his roster. Letting him go to your rival's label? Nah, that's not how Gucci Mane operates. So now you got Pooh Shiesty, fresh out of prison, hungry, with a new deal on the table from Gotti, and he's stuck under a contract with a label boss who ain't budging. The frustration is building. The tension is rising. And instead of handling this the way Ross was talking about, through negotiation, through lawyers, through business, what allegedly happened next was something nobody saw coming. But that's not even the crazy part yet. January 10th, 2026, Dallas, Texas, a recording studio. According to the Department of Justice, and I want to emphasize this is coming from federal prosecutors, not blogs, not Twitter rumors. This is what allegedly went down. Pooh Shiesty, Big 30, Shiesty's father, Lontrell Williams Sr., and 6 other individuals traveled to Gucci Mane's studio in Dallas. On the surface, it was supposed to be a meeting about the contract, maybe a recording session, something normal, something business-related, the kind of thing that happens in studios every single day. But this wasn't a meeting. According to prosecutors, this was a coordinated armed takeover. Let me repeat that. The federal government is calling this a coordinated armed takeover. Here's how it allegedly played out. Shiesty asked Gucci to step into a private room in the studio to talk. Once they were inside, the other defendants came in and closed the door behind them. Big 30 allegedly barricaded the only exit, and then, according to the criminal complaint, Pooh Shiesty pulled out an AK-style pistol and pointed it directly at Gucci Mane's head. At gunpoint, Gucci was allegedly forced to sign paperwork, a contract release that would free Shiesty from his deal with 1017 Records. The feds say Shiesty's father had printed this paperwork earlier that same day at a Staples in Frisco, Texas. That's premeditation, gang. That's not a crime of passion, that's a plan. But it didn't stop there. Prosecutors say the group also robbed Gucci of his wedding ring, his earrings, cash, and his watch. One of the other defendants, DeMarcus Glover, allegedly choked one of the other victims nearly unconscious and stole his watch, wallet, and AirPods. They stole Rolexes, Louis Vuitton, high-end goods. This wasn't just about the contract anymore. This was a full-scale robbery.
The remaining conspirators displayed firearms and robbed the other victims of Rolex watches, jewelry, cash, and other high-value items.
After it was over, the group allegedly left the studio and went to an apartment complex in Frisco where Shiesty and his father lived. 4 of the defendants reportedly took a Greyhound bus back to Memphis. 3 others drove back in a Dodge Ram. And here's the part that investigators probably loved. Prosecutors say members of the group were posting on social media just hours after the incident. On April 1st, 2026, the FBI raided Pooh Shiesty's family home in Dallas. By the end of the day, both Shiesty and his father were in custody. Big 30 was arrested separately. In total, 9 people were hit with federal kidnapping and armed robbery charges. 1 suspect is still on the run. The maximum sentence? Life in prison. Let that sink in. Pooh Shiesty was free for barely 3 months before catching a case that could put him away forever. Now here's where people started connecting the dots. And this is where Yo Gotti's name really starts ringing alarm bells. Think about the timeline. Gotti offers Shiesty a deal. Shiesty can't get out of his contract with Gucci. Weeks later, Shiesty allegedly robs Gucci at gunpoint and forces him to sign a release. And then, after Shiesty and Big 30 get arrested, Yo Gotti's personal lawyer shows up to represent Big 30 in federal court. Now nobody, and I mean nobody, is saying Yo Gotti knew about the robbery beforehand. There's no evidence of that. Gotti has not been charged with anything. He has not been named in any court documents. Let me keep it 100 on that. But the optics are insane. The internet looked at that timeline and went absolutely crazy. Some people on social media are calling Gotti a master strategist, saying he orchestrated the whole thing from behind the scenes. Others are saying he's just looking out for Memphis artists the way he always has. Big 30 is from Memphis. Gotti reps Memphis. Maybe it's just hometown loyalty. Maybe. But then you factor in the history between Gotti and Gucci, and it gets real hard to see this as just a coincidence. These two have been at odds for years, and now Gucci's biggest artist tried to force his way out of a contract, allegedly to go sign with Gotti. And when it all falls apart, Gotti's legal team swoops in. Come on now. Even if it's innocent, you can see why the streets are reading between the lines. And then there's the whole snitch conversation. DJ Academics broke this part down publicly. According to him, Gucci Mane cooperated with law enforcement in identifying the suspects. Gucci and a cameraman who was present at the studio allegedly identified Big 30's Instagram account to investigators. Now some people are calling Gucci a rat for this. Fans are furious. There's a viral video of an inmate in Atlanta literally throwing Gucci's book off a railing in what people are interpreting as a rejection of Gucci for cooperating. But let's be real for a second. If somebody runs up on you with an AK-style pistol in your own studio, robs you of your wedding ring, and forces you to sign paperwork at gunpoint, are you really a snitch for telling the feds who did it? That's a question the culture is wrestling with right now, and it's a question that doesn't have an easy answer depending on which side of the fence you're on. 50 Cent, of course, couldn't resist weighing in. He posted a cryptic message on Instagram referencing Gucci's 2005 incident involving Pookie Lock. Then he deleted it. Classic 50. Then he posted again hinting that somebody cooperated with law enforcement. Finesse 2 times jumped in too, speculating that one of Gucci's security guards, allegedly a former police officer, may have been the one who gave investigators the information that led to Shiesty's arrest. The fallout from this has been nuclear, and it's still unfolding in real time. Pooh Shiesty is currently in custody in Dallas, awaiting further court proceedings. He's facing federal charges, not state, federal, which means the feds are running this, and anyone who knows anything about federal cases knows the conviction rate is astronomical. We're talking above 90%. Shiesty's lawyer, John Helms, is pushing back on the narrative, saying the government is oversimplifying a complicated situation. He says things in the music business aren't always what they seem. But the feds have a 32-page criminal complaint that lays everything out in detail. The guns, the stolen property, the pre-printed paperwork, the social media posts after the fact. That's a lot of evidence to fight. Big 30, whose real name is Rodney Wright Jr., had a bond hearing in Tennessee. A judge initially granted him a $100,000 bond, but the government immediately got that decision stayed. Meaning even though a judge said he could get out, the prosecution blocked it until a Texas judge could review the decision. Big 30's lawyer, the one provided by Yo Gotti's camp, described the allegations as shocking and said Big 30 has no criminal history and has been making music for years. Shiesty's father is also locked up and facing charges. Prosecutors pointed out his extensive criminal history, which includes prior kidnapping charges, drug charges, and gun charges. The defense argued that there's no confirmation of what he printed at the Staples, and that nothing incriminating was found at the home. But prosecutors painted a picture of him as the logistical support, the one who printed the release paperwork and coordinated with the studio owner on the day of the robbery. Meanwhile, Gucci Mane hasn't said a word publicly. Not a single post, not a single interview, complete silence. And honestly, that silence is deafening. Some people respect it. Let the feds handle it, don't say anything that could jeopardize the case. Others see it as confirmation that he's cooperating behind the scenes. Rick Ross gave what was probably the most thoughtful reaction from anyone in the industry. He said he didn't like the situation for either side. He said Gucci didn't deserve what happened to him, and he didn't want to see Shiesty go down like this either. But he emphasized that artists need to be educated about business. You can't muscle your way out of a contract. If you signed for $100,000 and now there's $10 million on the table, you negotiate. You don't send 9 people with AK-style pistols to a studio. Ross then brought up that phone call he once arranged between Gotti and Gucci. He said his dream was to one day see a CMG and 1017 tour, a collaboration instead of a war. That dream is probably dead now, so let's zoom out for a second and talk about what this really means for the culture. This case sits at the intersection of everything that's been plaguing hip-hop for years. Label exploitation, artists feeling trapped in bad deals, the street mentality colliding with the business world, and 2 moguls, Gotti and Gucci, whose rivalry has now potentially destroyed multiple lives. If Pooh Shiesty is convicted on these federal charges, he's looking at life. Life. This is a 25-year-old man. Correction, he's around 25, 26, who had the world in his hands. Fresh out of prison with a second chance, a new single making noise, offers from major labels. And instead of letting lawyers handle the contract dispute, instead of going through arbitration, instead of doing what literally every other artist in a bad deal has done, he allegedly chose violence, and the feds were watching. And Yo Gotti, he's in a tricky position. He hasn't been charged with anything. There's no evidence he had knowledge of the robbery. But his name is all over this story. His label was the destination for Shiesty. His lawyer is defending Big 30. His rivalry with Gucci is the backdrop for the entire saga. Even if Gotti is completely innocent of any involvement, this case is going to follow him. Every interview, every press run, someone's going to ask him about it. The real question the streets are asking right now is this: did Yo Gotti know? Did he set this whole thing in motion by dangling that CMG deal in front of Shiesty, knowing it would create a conflict with Gucci? Or was he just doing business, making an offer to a talented artist, and Shiesty took things way too far on his own? We might never get a definitive answer to that. But the speculation alone is enough to fuel conversations for years. And then there's the broader lesson here for every young artist watching this unfold. Read your contracts before you sign them. Understand what you're agreeing to, because when you're hungry and someone offers you a deal, it feels like salvation. But years later, when you've outgrown that deal and you want out, the music industry doesn't care about how you feel. It cares about what you signed, and if you try to handle that frustration with a gun instead of a lawyer, the system is going to eat you alive. Pooh Shiesty had everything: talent, buzz, a fan base that rides for him no matter what. And now he's sitting in a federal holding facility in Dallas, facing charges that could take the rest of his life away. Gucci Mane got robbed in his own studio by an artist he helped build. Yo Gotti is watching it all from a distance, quiet as a church mouse, letting his lawyer do the talking. And the rest of us, we're just watching another tragedy unfold in real time. This story ain't over though. Not by a long shot. There's still one suspect on the run. There's still trials to come. There's still a lot of details that haven't been made public yet. And trust me, when more information drops, I'll be right here breaking it all down for y'all. But I want to hear from you. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think Yo Gotti had a hand in this? Do you think Gucci Mane is wrong for cooperating? And do you think Pooh Shiesty has any chance of beating these charges? Let me know. And if you're new here, go ahead and subscribe. Hit that notification bell, because the way this story is developing, there's going to be updates you don't want to miss. Until next time, stay safe out there, fam. Real recognize real.